Well, here we are again, 5 minutes with Jamar Suber. But listen, it's not about me today. It's about my guest, Suzie Becker. She has an amazing podcast. I'm going to go ahead and shut up, kick this thing over to her. Suzie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jamar, for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Schmooze With Suze Podcast.
Yes. So, about a year ago, someone asked me if I would make a donation to their organization, and then I could trust that they would take the money that I gave them and they would put out a message that they were fairly certain I would be happy with. And I thought to myself, well, communication is sort of my superpower. So if I have words to share, who better to express them than me? So I did a little research and I decided to launch my podcast, Schmooze With Suze, because I felt that at the time, the city that I'm raising my kids in, Jacksonville, was undergoing some really harsh public changes. There was racism and anti-Semitism and discord that was becoming so prominent, and it hurts my heart. As someone who was raised by 4 Holocaust survivors, all 4 of my grandparents, it's important that we stand up and speak out. And so I started with this platform of, I'm not an expert, but I'm willing to ask the questions to make more of us feel less alone. I'll play dumb. I'll bring the experts on and we could talk about all those uncomfortable things. Where's the nearest food pantry? How can I get involved if I can't offer a monetary donation? What other ways can I support my community? Time, talent, word of mouth. So it became a way for me to build capacity by talking to stakeholders and thought leaders in Jacksonville, where we were focusing on not the problems, but looking for the helpers, finding the solutions.
Man, that is amazing. In my mind, podcasting is all about freedom of thought in language and expression. How important is that to you?
Very important, especially now. Some will say that I am pro-semantic. I'm pro-Semitic because I think it's important that we use our words very intentionally. What we put out into the energy, what we put out into the atmosphere comes back to us. So if we go back to the Hebrew language, the term or the expression abracadabra or abracadabra comes from the Aramaic. It comes from the Hebrew abara, I create, bara, kidabra, that I spoke. We're putting it out. We're manifesting out into the universe. So it's important that our language is not only used for the right reasons and to promote the right purposes, but also to be heard very clearly.
When it comes to racism and systematic racism, a lot of people just box it into American, say, slavery and all these things. But it started way back when with the children of Israel and in biblical times. Do you dive into some of these topics as well?
Absolutely. I think that part of how we move forward as a community is by de-siloing and telling each other our stories. Some of my favorite guests have been families who come from backgrounds that are so diverse than mine. I can't possibly know what the family of a sharecropper's experience is, but once we shared our stories and our successes, our triumph over tragedy, we found ways that we could focus on where we could bring our hands back to help those who are still struggling today. It hasn't ended, but we still have to talk about it because you can't heal what you don't feel.
Absolutely.
So avoiding it doesn't help anybody.
So, oftentimes people who are trying to portray themselves as not being racist, they'll say, I don't see color. What does that mean?
I have no idea, because the first thing that gets asked to me in a community supper type of conversation, if I were to say that as a Jewish person, from my informed background, inevitably somebody will say to me, well, you can hide that with your skin tone, a black person can't. I'm not comparing those two things. I think that it's important that we recognize and take responsibility for saying just that. Of course, color is an obvious statement that you make. Tell me how you feel about this.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Do you think there have been improvements in Jacksonville when it comes to anti-Semitic conversations? And are these things improving? Are they getting better from the open dialogue? Or is our society eroding? What are your thoughts on that as we wrap up?
It's such a great question. I think that in Jacksonville specifically, we have the potential to be a pilot city for modeling change, for modeling proactive, curated, educating, and activation for how a city should behave. I see those conversations happening. I see that there's partners with One Jacks, with 90 Forward, with the Jewish Federation and Foundation of Northeast Florida, with the JCA, in collaboration with the First Coast YMCA in their Together Against Hate campaign, which, by the way, has their Race Against Hate on February 25th at the Winston Family YMCA. You can go online and you can register to run or walk with me. Yeah. So I'm walking.
I'll walk with you.
But we're going to race against hate together.
Yeah, that's amazing. Man, you and I have to continue this conversation. Maybe we'll have to continue it on your show. I don't know. But hey, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Suzie, thank you for coming on today. You've heard it right here. Listen, tune in. You have to check out Suzie's podcast. You can tune into her podcast by exploring through dailynewsnetwork.com. This is Jamar Suber. I'm checking out.